Okay, welcome back. Our next speaker, or I should say speakers, is Larry Cohen and Olga Torrey. Now we're gonna go in a different direction now. We've been underground, we've been out to space. Now we're going to take you to the third dark place, which is below the surface of the ocean, down to some dark depths. And our two speakers, Larry and Olga, enjoy creating photographs when diving in caves and caverns. They also explore shipwrecks worldwide, including their dark interiors. Besides diving during the day, they enjoy photography and the behavior of marine life at night, including giant manta rays in the waters off Kona, Hawaii. Join Larry and Olga as they tell tales and show photos of their favorite dark places under the sea. Larry is the past president of the New York Sea Gypsies, co-founder of New York UPS, and the U.S. editor of X-Ray magazine. Larry's photos have been published internationally, including Sport Diver, Scuba Diving, Alert Diver, Diver, Immersed, Advanced Diver, Some Aqua Journal, and the Northeast Dive News. If there's any other dive magazine there, I don't know. I think that covers them all. To see more of their work, visit a site that is www.liquidimagesuv.com. Olga Torrey is a nature photographer below and above the water. She is a fine artist with a life member and is a life member of the Art Students League in New York City. She's been published in the Vetrum X-Way magazine, Northeast Dive News, The Ultimate Depth, The Ultimate Depth, that's the name, and PNG Air's Flight magazine, and many other magazines and websites. To see more of her work, visit www.fitimage.nyc. And without further ado, Larry and Olga. The clock in the back of the room is your time.
Okay.
Countdown clock.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yep.
Thank you for the intro, John. And Olga. Creating images in the dark. Is the mic okay? No. Is that better?
That's because it's off. Now it's on.
Okay, try it again.
Okay.
Try it again. Put it back.
Let me try this here. You guys could hear me now, right? Well, John said everything I just said, so we're going to just continue on with the show.
In Mexico, the entrance of the caves could be bright with interesting plants like the lilies in Sonora Mine Blue.
Some people think all we see is wet rocks, but the stalactites and stalagmites are a spectacular sight.
When a cave ceiling collapses, a cenote is formed. The way the light streams into the cenotes is striking.
The Riviera Maya is known for flooded cave passages accessed through thousands of cenotes throughout the landscape.
Cenotes were the only source of fresh water for the Mayan people, and today remains the only natural sources of potable water in the area.
The cave formations are frozen in time since they cannot form underwater.
By 2008, the Quintana Roo Speleological Society reported more than 430 miles of flooded cave passages within the limits of the Riviera Maya, including the two longest underwater cave systems in the world of Sakaktoon and Okbelkha.
Among the diving community, only 10% are certified cave divers, but only 5% leave the caverns and go into the caves. Taking a cave diving class is like going to diving college.
When taking photos in the cavern zone, we balance the ambient light without strobes.
Using these techniques, we could create interesting images, even just in the cave entrance.
To dive safely, you need a continuous line to open water.
We use arrow markers to point to the exit and cookies so we know who in the dive team is still in the cave.
Cenote car wash is one of our favorite cenotes. In the 1980s, many car owners, including taxi drivers, came here to wash their cars because it was so conveniently close to the roadside. That is how it got its name.
We could change the look of the photo by changing the way we light the entrance.
Car wash has many stalactites and columns right in the entrance. As photographers, we use them as frames.
Some of us use rebreathers to extend our dive time.
Tannic acid is a natural substance that can change the color of the water in cenote car wash.
This happens after a few days of heavy rain.
It is released from the mangroves and flows into the cenote.
It creates a thick layer on the water's surface that can reduce visibility.
But a diver looks like he's on Mars.
We dove car wash many times, but never saw this effect. A few months ago, it rained heavy for a few days, so we decided not to dive those days.
Once the weather cleared, we decided to go to car wash, hoping that the tannic acid would be thick.
We were not disappointed. It was a very strong effect.
Besides the tannic acid, the sun rays create a spectacular effect.
Casa Cenote is another location that gets tannic acid. Casa is one of the ocean exit points for the system Sakatoon, and it lies beneath a dense mangrove layer. There is a tunnel that a diver could go through to reach the ocean. We know a number of divers who have done this, some of which are in this room, and they say they would never, ever do it again.
Where the cavern turns into a cave, there is a stop sign. This one is in car wash.
This stop sign is in Mayan blue. Most caves have these signs to warn divers that do not have the proper training not to go any further.
Moravice is a deep 230-feet sinkhole, but not a cave. You could get a great dive at 100 feet depth.
So is Zapata, also known as Hell's Bells.
The mysterious rock formations are alive and grow underwater because of very special endemic bacteria.
The rock formations are called elephant feet. They've only been found in 4 cenotes, all of them in the Puerto Morales area. And we like to go to Puerto Morales not only for the sinkholes, but there's also a really nice microbrewery there.
Cenote Angelita is another deep 190-feet sinkhole that is unique. There are tree and other organic material that causes a hydrogen sulfide cloud. The dive site smells like rotten eggs, but the experience of disappearing in the cloud is worth it.
The cloud is at about 90 feet. There is no cloud in Angelita at 40 feet, but there are some beautiful decorations.
Minotoro has a small but interesting cavern area. Minotaur cave system consists of 5 cenotes located within the cave's system. The upstream main involves a very enjoyable circuit dive called La Vuelta,
or the turn.
on the turn.
Metatoro has areas that are very tight. This cave is really good for a 2 to 3 person dive team.
Inside the cave, we use LED lights for the background and strobes to light the subject.
Preparing for a photo shoot like this is like setting up studio lights, but we're underwater and in total blackness.
The cave system in the cenote is almost 30,000 feet length. In this cave system are several cenotes: Estrella, Escalera, Piedra, and Winds.
The Metatoro has many routes to follow and the restrictions and exits to other cenotes.
The system has a alkaline when fresh water mixes with the seawater.
The seawater is much warmer than the fresh water. We'll pause in there, and sometimes it's hard to get Olga to go back out the cave because she wants to stay in where the water is warm.
In Minotaur, the guidelines starts in open water, so no need to install a primary rail.
This cave also has many jumps and routes to follow. And you could see the line there with the line arrow pointing to the exit.
It also has shallow and smaller sections, which makes diving with CCR, which Larry dives,
A rebreather.
rebreather, challenging because of shallow water. Diving side mount is easy, and I dive side mount, so it's much easier for me.
Cenote Taj Mahal is known for a maze of tunnels and huge chambers. Most divers in Mexico and a lot of cave divers these days do dive side mount. This way they could easily fit through narrow passageways.
When the limestone formations passages get very narrow, in Cenote Taj Mahal or any other cave system, they could remove a tank and swim with it in front of them.
Nahoch is the world's second largest surveyed underwater cave system, with 234 miles of underwater line.
As we enter Nahoch, you could see the steps in the background that allow entry into the cenote.
To add a little something here, most of the caves that have been surveyed already have permanent lines in place. There'll be a main line and there'll be offshoot lines that we have to run a gap reel because you always want to have a continuous line to the surface. Many of these caves, the line starts further inside the cave to discourage people who aren't cave diving trained for going inside.
Nahoch main line goes into the spectacular formation of columns and through tremendous maze of passageways.
This is in Chan Hole, part of the Toha cave system.
Chahol means a little hole in Mayan. You have to squeeze into the opening one person at the time. It's literally very narrow. Like your head can get through your tank and that's it. But then it opens up in a big room.
Yeah, the cave system is over 16,000 feet in length. Towards the entrance, there is some pottery and bones. In this cave system, 3 prehistoric human skeletons were discovered within the cave system. The bones were removed from the cave for lab study. They were placed in plastic bags of cave water for transportation. Now, When we dive in cold water, we dive in dry suits. But in Mexico, where it's 77 degrees, a lot of our friends dive dry. We want to still dive wet because if we start diving dry in 77-degree water, we'll never dive in cold water again. Now, I'm fine with one layer of clothes, but Olga, after looking at this little video, you might say she should bring down her dry suit. It is now time to peel the onion. First layer. How to undress a diver. It takes a village.
It definitely takes a team.
All right. That's why it takes us 3 hours to get into the water. And I think next time we go to Mexico, she's going to bring down her dry suit.
We love Mexico because there's interesting wildlife and Mayan ruins and to see with all the caves. There are over 500 bird species found in the Yucatan. So the plain chachalaca is mostly,
Whoop.
oops. Oh,
Hold on.
Oh, you want
Something went back. Oh, hold it. Sorry, guys.
So this common bird you can see everywhere in Yucatan, and it's called plain chachalaca, and it's mostly active early in the mornings, which is really kind of tough to handle. They have an irritatingly loud call with whistles and cackles that sound like a bunch of men arguing, and I'm gonna play that for you.
Wrong button. You're recording.
Stop. Here, one moment. 7 a.m. almost every morning. Literally.
Now, Olga prefers that hear that in the morning as opposed to the sirens in New York City, but I'm not so sure.
American flamingos are native to Yucatan Peninsula. The pink and reddish color of flamingos comes from the carotenoids in the diet of animal and plant plankton.
The Yucatan woodpecker is only found in Central America. The adult male has a red cap going from the eye to the nap. Females lack the red cap.
The kill-billed toucan eat a variety of fruits, insects, and small animals. They are also known to use their beaks to reach into the tree cavities to extract eggs and nestlings of other bird species.
The white-nosed coati is found in Mexico. It's a member of the raccoon family. These animals are daytime animals, while raccoons are nocturnal.
A guti, a cute little animal, belongs to the family of rodents. The Mexican species are critically endangered due to loss of habitat. They are great seed dispensers, helping plant other trees.
The spiny-tailed iguana is a moderately sized lizard. They are fast-moving, employing their speed to get away from predators, but they will lash out with their tails and bite if cornered.
The spider monkey is considered to be an endangered mostly due to human threats.
It is a social animal, and they usually live in groups of 20 to 42.
They feed on fruits found on trees.
When threatened, these monkeys will bark while throwing objects, including feces and branches, while jumping up and down. While taking photographs one day, they weren't happy with us, and we experienced that.
So we decided next time we go into jungle, use our helmets, the cave helmets for that. It has long arms and prehensile tail, which can support its own weight. The monkey jumps from branch to branch effortlessly, and we saw that, moving up to 40 feet in one swing, causing them to be a great seed dispenser for many species.
We also saw Yucatan black collar monkeys, which is one of the biggest monkeys in the Americas. The males could weigh up to 25 pounds and the females 14.
They are one of the loudest land animals. Their call could be heard for 3 miles, with the morning and evening howling sessions lasting for over an hour, like those chachalaka in the morning.
These monkeys are endangered due to natural habitat loss, hunting, and being captured as pets. Not that I want a pet whose howl could be heard for 3 miles. They are expected to decline by up to 60% over the next 30 years.
So as you can see here, this is a male. It's obvious. And actually, he did number 1. Right here, you can see it, he's pink on us, on the top of the tree. And actually, he also did number 2. So watch out for those guys.
I think that's too much information.
Well, it's obvious. It's out there. I just want to clarify for you. So the Mexican howler diet includes mostly leaves and fruit, a low-energy food. Yucatan black house is they mostly spend resting and moving about 10% a day.
I agree with that. That's what I do as well.
I discourage that.
Now, Tulum is close to the caves we dived down there and was one of the last cities built and inhabited by the Mayan people. It was at its height between the 13th and 15th century, and it survived 70 years after the Spanish began occupying Mexico.
This architecture is recognized by a step running around the base of the building, which sits on the low substructure, an impressive wall made Tulum one of the most well-known fortified sites of the Maya.
Tulum stands on a bluff facing east towards the Caribbean Sea. This was an important site for the worship of the diving god. The problem now is Tulum has become really touristy. It's like going to the Metropolitan Museum on a Sunday for a well-publicized show. It's just gotten too crowded.
Expool Hill is a Mayan ruin that is about a 6-hour drive south from Tulum. This ruin is atypical because of the 3-tower construction. The towers exhibited nice rounded corners.
Ormegado is in that same area, and this was a Mayan city which was at its peak in the late Classic period. Excuse me, from 650 to 850 Common Era. It is known for its richly decorated structural facade. This far away from Tulum, there's like no tourist. At both this and other Mayan ruin sites we went to, we were like the only people there.
Cohen Lake has a building called the Temple of the Mask. There are a west facing the central stairway. There's a flanked by huge, beautiful stucco mask of the sun god, each of 6 feet tall.
Regale is a city that's part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1996.
The snake symbolizes Ku Klux Klan, a great leader and ruler of Chichen Itza, associated with the feathers serpent god.
Ku Klux Klan was a great leader who is said to return to Earth to give hope to its followers.
The mines had skull racks where the heads of sacrificed victims would be exhibited.
You never know what you're going to see on the road when we're going to the caves or any of these Mayan ruins. One issue now, though, they're building, and a lot of it's running now, is the Mayan train. It's being built through the jungle, and it has destroyed and might continue to destroy some more of the caves and historical sites and just the natural beauty of this area. Central Florida is another area with many underwater caves. These caves are underground rivers and were never dry, so you don't get the formations that you get in the Mexican caves.
Caves in Florida, such as Guinea Springs, have more flow than the caves in Mexico.
Many of them are also much deeper, such as Peacock Springs.
Besides diving in caves, we enjoy diving at night. Diving at night with giant manta rays is an amazing experience.
At night, the mantas feed on plankton. We use video lights to attract the plankton so the manta rays will come in close.
There are reef mantas that do not migrate. They spend their lives in the coastal waters of Hawaii.
This is the second largest species of mantas and can have a fin span of up to 18 feet.
When diving off a boat, the dive operator deploys a large light on the sea bottom, pointing up. There was also floats with lights pointing down. With all the lights, it's like doing a night dive at Times Square in New York City.
The dive guides position the group of divers in a circle around the large light on the sandy bottom. Sitting on the seafloor with a large group while watching the mantas dance in front of you has a feeling like you're at the ballet.
Charlie Fasano, the Hawaii Regional Director of the Shark Research Institute and a member of the Explorers Club, went with us to some beach sites. At these sites, we snorkeled with manta without a boat.
While snorkeling, we're at the same level as the mantas. So instead of feeling like you're at the ballet, you feel like you're in the mosh pit at a punk rock club like CBGB's. The only difference is instead of being body slammed by a skinny spiked hair punk, you're being body slammed by a 1.4-ton fish.
So this does hurt a little, but it's a unique experience. We try to protect our body parts and camera gear, and I was not that so successful. One of my video lights was broken, and a manta jumped into my left shoulder, so it was a little bit painful for about a month.
Yeah, you were kind of not happy for
It's like a
month.
truck ran over me. They're hungry, so they just go for that food.
We also enjoy diving on shipwrecks and going inside them.
Penetrating a wreck could be as dangerous as a cave, but only the difference is that cave could be
It's a different experience, but having cave
Helps.
dive training definitely helps.
The Stolt Dagale is a tanker from Norway that is sunk off New Jersey.
Here we use dry suits. The ship is cut in half and the stern section sits in 130 feet of water, but comes up to 65 feet.
The bow stayed afloat and was put back in service.
There are many areas to go inside on the Stalt.
He is one of the boilers inside the engine room.
There are also other interesting machinery inside the wreck.
In the St. Lawrence River near Alexandria Bay, New York, is the wreck of the U.S. Keystone.
The ship hit the Skull Island Shoal in a fog in October 12, 1912. The stern is in 115 feet of water, but the bow comes up to 20 feet.
The wreck is intact, and you could swim from the bow to stern inside. When over 105 feet of water, it's like a night dive. During the day, it could be so dark.
The Yukon is an artificial reef, a wreck sunk on purpose off the coast of San Diego. This ship was a Canadian destroyer escort. It's huge. It's 366 feet long, 40 feet wide, with 6 decks and over 100 compartments to go inside and explore.
The Ruby E shipwreck is another San Diego wreck, as we say, and it's also dark by the propeller.
The wreck has colorful growth and marine life like this California sheephead.
Chuck Lagoon in Micronesia has many Japanese merchant vessels the U.S. sunk during Operation Hailstorm on February 17th and 18th, 1944. This huge propeller is on the Hoki Maru.
Inside the Hoki, you could find equipment like this bulldozer.
There are also bombs inside the Hoki.
The skull is in a tight space and was hard to get the photo, but it's a good reminder of the outcome of war.
Another reminder of the effect of war is the medical equipment and bones in the Shinku Maru.
Inside the Kenosha Maru, you could find china.
And machinery.
Inside the Fujikawa Maru, this gas mask looked eerie, sitting on top of an outside screw and yoke valve.
The Fujikawa Maru was carrying airplanes.
Inside the San Francisco Maru, you could find mines.
And cars.
And since these were freighters, sometimes there'd just be parts, like these car parts, inside the San Francisco.
The Amigasan Maru was carrying bikes, which is my favorite way of getting around New York City.
Not on these.
Well,
Here's part of the engine room telegraph on the Rio de Janeiro Maru.
you could see the time the Rio de Janeiro Maru sank when the dock clock stopped working.
The coast of North Carolina also has many shipwrecks.
This because ocean conditions could be rough, and there was a lot of war activity during World War II since there are shipping lanes.
Many of these shipwrecks are intact, and you could go inside. The problem with North Carolina is those rough conditions. So sometimes we'll drive down there for a week, and we're lucky if we get 3 days of diving in.
There are large schools of fish inside the wrecks.
We also get black sea bass that are usually found further up north.
There are also many sand tiger sharks.
There are so many sharks inside the Aeolus. The area is known as the Shark Ballroom. I used Olga's focus light as a design element when I was taking a photo of the sand tiger shark in the dark.
Sand tiger sharks are not usually aggressive, but look mean with their overhanging teeth.
Guys, we hope you enjoyed our talk and photographs of being underwater and in the dark. We want to thank Nicola for inviting us to speak today. And if any of you cavers want to go underwater caving, let us know. We know a number of instructors in both the Florida and Mexico area. And to see more of my work, again, go to liquidimagesuw.com, olgasfitimage.nyc. Next week, there's a big dive show beneath the sea. We'll be doing a talk on Mexico at 2:30 on Saturday. So besides the Yucatan, we'll be talking about sea lions on the west coast of Mexico and giant manta rays during the day off Socorro Islands. And other than that, we're ready if anybody has any questions.
Questions for Larry or Olga? Over there, yeah.
Yep. Could you please tell us a little bit about the equipment you need for your cave diving? I know you were talking about duplication, et cetera, and also your camera equipment.
Okay, do you want me to answer that? For the actual diving, first of all, one of the rules of cave diving is to carry 3 of everything, because one thing might fail, 2 things might fail, but probably 3 things won't fail. So we carry 3 lights, we always carry extra gas supplies, etc. Olga and I dive a little bit differently. I dive a rebreather and started diving one that's very tiny that mounts onto my chest. I still carry enough gas to get out of the cave in case the rebreather fails. Camera equipment, we both use Olympus or now OM Systems camera gear. This is put in an underwater housing. I use one by the company Aquatica. Olga uses one by Nauticam because we got 2 different model cameras. And we use strobe lights. A lot of people in Mexico just use video lights for lighting. Right now, we're using a mixture. We're using video lights for the background, and we're usually using strobes for our subject or for the front. Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I just want to add that since we also try to use light up the subject in front of us using strobes, so it's becoming much more tasking. So we have to schlep with a lot of more gear than just usually other photographers who do cave diving. So it's challenging, but we like that. And so it also requires, like we say, besides the video lights and 3 have background lights and all that, we have to have reels, we have to have spools, we have to do cookies and arrows. So it's a lot of gear we have to take into the cave, and that's, of course, you want to make sure that when you taking photos, you don't get distracted because you might lose the main line and you might lose the way out. So that comes to a lot of components of cave diving, besides, especially for photographers.
Yeah, basically for the team, we'll carry 1 main reel. So we won't do it in Metoro because the line starts in open water. But we'll carry 1 big reel so we could run a line to the already in place line. Then if we're planning to do jumps going to other lines that aren't connected, even if those lines are only 6 inches apart, we want to obey the rules and use a gap spool to connect those two lines together and put the proper line arrow and cookie on it so we know the way out. You always have to carry a safety spool as well. So in case you lose the line, you could use the safety spool to help find the line that you lost.
And extra mask, just in case if your main mask broke, make sure you have another one in your bag. So it's a lot of stuff we have to put in and take with us.
Any other questions?
There used to be a strong, there was formerly a strong environmental ethic in Riviera Maya with the cenotes to the point where they would ban sunscreen if you wanted to go in the water because they were concerned about water quality. How are they reconciling that now with the Tren Maya bulldozing through the middle of all that, and how extensive is the destruction?
Well, you're still not supposed to wear sunscreen in there. How it's being reconciled is a good question. The destruction, I mean, we've know people who have seen part of that construction in the cave. We have not, and most of the systems that we dove, the visibility hasn't been that bad. There's one system we were diving where we're like, something just isn't right. So we are seeing that. Martin, do you want to add to that at all?
We can count at least 100 cenotes impacted so far with the Tren Maya, but the problem is not the Tren Maya. The problem is about the construction. We're having big farms or fertilizing a river, so it's a lot of factors that are affecting the water.
Right. It's not just the train. The whole area is being overbuilt, with huge, bigger and bigger hotels, condo complexes, etc. And it is affecting the area for sure.
Of course, wildlife.
Yes, and affecting the wild, besides the caves, the wildlife.
Do we have time for just one more question? Or does somebody have their hand up? Yes.
Dennis.
I'm just very curious, you're in a black hole in a large cave,
Not always large.
and I was wondering, how in the world you're in a black space, how do you put your background lights for these large things? I'm from the photography end, I'm curious about your lighting in a large
Right.
cave.
Well, we've been doing it a couple different ways, and it's a work in progress. We're still kind of working on. What I used to do, and like the caves in Florida, I would shoot those actually all strobes, and and people were diving back mount. I would mount 1 or 2 strobes onto my model's tanks and have slave units coming out front. What we did in Mexico this last time was we had 3 video lights that weren't strong enough. We need to get more, but we had them on gorilla pods. And then we were placing the gorilla pods in areas where it wouldn't cause any damage and hopefully wouldn't silt up too badly, and then trying to position those. So we're still working that out. Next time, we're thinking we are going to try mounting some of the video lights on whoever's probably on the side mount tanks, but try to put them on the tank so we don't see the light, still aiming backwards.
Okay. I want to thank Larry and Olga for their wonderful
Can I make one additional announcement? Well, he's not in the audience, but Bernie Chowdhury, member of the Explorers Club, is also presenting with Nesreen Ha. If you stand up. They'll be presenting at Beneath the Sea next week as well. And hopefully you two will be there this time.
We'll be there. Last year, the reason Tales from the Dark Side is this weekend is last year, Chris went to Beneath the Sea to see us a week early. It would have been this weekend.
But they did eventually show up.
And he was shocked that he was the only caver diver at the Meadowlands. So he decided to make Tales from the Dark Side this weekend, so he wouldn't accidentally go.
Yeah.
Still might go the week after.
Okay, all right, all right.
Okay, all right, we're going to move forward, and just information for the audience. If you glance over your right shoulder all the way to the back of the room, you see a countdown clock. Okay, that's not for you. That's for the speakers up here. It's kind of a countdown, how much time you have left, and we're down to 10 seconds. And most speakers do pretty good, but every once in a while I got to give them a nudge. But frankly, Paul Dime messed up my time because I should have known, because he got done early, right? And I'm hoping for the countdown clock to go negative like it's not right now, because I just really wanted to say, Houston, we have a problem. Okay, our final speaker and keynote speaker for today is really a remarkable individual. I didn't even know how much to say about him. Our speaker is Roger Brucker. And Roger Brucker is probably the most knowledgeable person on the history and exploration of Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. And Mammoth Cave is the largest cave system in the world. Nothing even comes close to it. Right now, it's got over 410 miles of map passage, and we all know it's got a lot more, and it keeps growing. It will probably be, I don't know, a 1,000-mile cave at some point. I mean, it's absolutely massive and huge. It's got a huge history. And Roger, I think he was there when the first discovery was made. When I say that Roger's been around a long time, he's been there for over 7 decades. And if he doesn't mind, I'll let you know, he's now 95, and he's like the ever-ready Energizer Bunny and keeps on going and going and going. And he's kind of like me in a little way, not a lot, but you know, I'm only 25. I don't know who the SOB in the mirror is. And Roger, I know, feels the same way. Anyway, Roger is one of the world's greatest experts on Mammoth Cave, and with over, like I say, over 7 decades of information there. He's the co-founder of the Cave Research Foundation. Now, that's an organization of cavers and scientists that oversee the exploration and mapping at Mammoth Cave. Literally every month they have exploration teams, mapping teams going into the furthest parts of Mammoth Cave. Roger and fellow explorers are responsible for many discoveries throughout the second half of the 20th century, which led to Mammoth Cave being recognized as one of the world, not recognized as one of, but recognized as the world's longest cave. Roger has written a number of books, The Caves Beyond, as well as The Longest Cave, and Beyond Mammoth Cave, A Tale of Obsession in the World's Longest Caves. Roger is consultant for National Geographic Television, has been interviewed on NPR, CBS Evening News. He's also a co-author of the book Trapped, The Story of Floyd Collins. Now, cavers know who Floyd Collins is. The rest of the world may or may not, okay? Floyd Collins, back in the 1920 era period, 25, in that part of Kentucky, they had what they called cave wars. No, it's not a reality show, but back then it kind of was. But cave wars, the Kentucky being a poor rural state, people were coming there as tourists, and so it was competition for finding caves that they could make money and take tourists or whatever. And the Collins family owned a cave on Flint Ridge called Floyd Collins Crystal Cave, but it's kind of far back off the main road, and so finding something closer would be better. Also, Mammoth Cave is the big draw out there, and this is very close to Mammoth Cave. It's right next door. And these ridges sort of come together on the surface to a place where Floyd was going to try to find a cave there, a connection there. And he went down, it's called Sand Cave, and he went down in there, and this is back with, you know, oil lanterns, whatever, to explore it. He was a solo explorer. And he got caught, a rock about, I don't know, about the size, roughly about that big, trapped him. He got his leg caught underneath it and kind of came down and pinned him in there. And under today's standards and our rescue standards, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. And I would like to think that modern rescuers could probably take care of that situation. But back then, it wasn't quite the case, you know, and different people, and Roger can tell you all about this particular stuff, but they tried to get him out there, but it became kind of a circus. It's sort of like the CBS Evening News at the site, you know, and is the guy going to live or not going to live? And it became news media after news media after news media. It became a carnival that went on for quite some period of time. That's the Floyd Collins story, and Roger can tell you all about that. Now, the interesting part about that book, and we'll maybe mention this right after his presentation, but that story is now going to become a Broadway musical play. And it's premiering the 27th, next week.
Previews next Thursday
Okay, right here in New York at the Lincoln Center. Right? And we can talk about that in a little bit later. But that's not what Roger's going to talk about today, but he's going to talk about a different subject, one that's really pretty special. In the history of Mammoth Cave, back in the middle 1800s, slavery was still, this is before the Civil War, was still a big thing. And the owners at that time basically, I'm not sure hired is the right word, drafted, bought slaves to work in the caves. One of those slaves, his name was Stephen Bishop, a remarkable individual that Roger is going to tell you about. Then afterwards, we're going to have a little discussion by the Explorers Club and how that fits in here. So, but at this moment, I would like to introduce Roger Brucker.
How do I trigger the slide?
Can you get up here?
Yeah, how do I trigger the slide?
I will show you. Whatever happened to the control? Here we are.
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
The
okay.
green one is forward,
All right.
the red one is backward, and that's a laser pointer.
Wow.
And your time now is 49.11.
Boy, I have 4 hours and 96 minutes. What you're not seeing is that I'm juggling around on a bar stool behind me so that I can do a couple of things. One, stand up through the whole presentation. Secondly, get close enough to the microphone so you can hear me. Pretty close. It's all right. I want to do two things right now. The first is to bring Stephen Bishop alive to you. Stephen Bishop has been long dead, as has Floyd Collins, but long dead people tend to fade from our view. So I want to make sure that you leave this room with an intimate knowledge of Stephen Bishop. The second thing I want to do is to tell you some things about him you didn't know. So let's start with what you can see. And I'm going to use my expensive green laser to, whoops, I've got it upside down. That's what happens when you're 95. All right. If you Google on Stephen Bishop, you will see the words grand, gloomy, and peculiar on the first 5 or 10 pages of Google. And they will refer to Stephen Bishop, who used that phrase on almost every cave trip. And that's all everybody knows about grand, gloomy, and peculiar because it describes Mammoth Cave. Actually, in 1817, about 25 years before Stephen Bishop, a man named Charles Phillips in London, England, wrote a character study of Napoleon Bonaparte called Grand, Gloomy, and Peculiar. And the first 2 lines of that go, grand, gloomy, and peculiar. The sceptered monarch sat on his throne. And then there's about a page and a half of a description of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, how in the world did Stephen Bishop come to that grand, gloomy, and peculiar? And the answer is, one of his owners during his lifetime went to London and heard that and came back and told Stephen Bishop, you know, that reminded me of Mammoth Cave. And Stephen Bishop, like any good cave explorer, if he hears something wonderful, he repeats it as his own. So that's what I want to tell you about. Okay, now we're going to go. This is not a photograph because we have no photographs of Stephen Bishop. What we have is this wonderful engraving, and he wore a tuxedo into the cave at every cave trip. No, the answer is this was made about 30 years after his death. The lower part of the picture, from the collar down, was a kind of a standard thing that every daguerreotype person and photograph memorabilia person had, and they would put your head in at the top. I think Stephen Bishop's tuxedo was non-existent, so that's the first thing you're going to learn. He was born in 1820 on a plantation near Glasgow, Kentucky. Now, there aren't any plantations today in Glasgow, Kentucky, but this was a big one, 8,143 acres, owned by Lowry Bishop, and Lowry Bishop had 23 slaves. Very unusual in Kentucky because most farms had been divided down into places where you could employ 1 or 2 slaves, not gangs of slaves. At any rate, Lowry Bishop fathered Stephen Bishop, the story goes, with Lavinia, one of his slaves, and in 1820. Well, later on, when Stephen was much older, Lowry Bishop's wife got fed up with his profligacy. You like that word, profligacy? For his fooling around with his slaves, that she filed papers for divorce. Now, a lawyer named Franklin Gorin represented Lowry Bishop, and Catherine Bishop must have had a better lawyer because she really won and got a terrific financial settlement. Poor Lowry Bishop couldn't pay Franklin Gorin in cash, so he gave him 3 slaves, Stephen Bishop, Lavinia, and allegedly Stephen's brother, William. We know nothing more about William, so I won't tell you anymore. At any rate, Franklin Gorin brought Stephen Bishop to Mammoth Cave because he had just purchased Mammoth Cave for $5,000. You may think that sounds like buying the Brooklyn Bridge for $5,000. But at any rate, that was a pretty good deal, and he brought Stephen to the cave. Now, the cave was already running as a boondock cave system with a manager, Archibald Miller, and 2 guides. The guides were not very good, but they did have the benefit of a map. This is the map of 1853 by Edmund Lee, and it's an odd cave map. Edmund Lee's survey team spent 4 weeks at Mammoth Cave surveying this, and so you can see a plan view of the cave from the entrance all the way through the cave to a far off place where today there is the Violet City entrance. But on this level, you can see lots and lots of profiles of cave passages. And people say, why in the world would anybody do that to a cave without a lot of relief in it? Well, there's an answer to that, and this is one of the things you're going to learn that you didn't